MK Beth Tutorials, and I am so glad that you're here. I get a lot of questions from clients asking, Beth, can I send my measurements if I'm far away or if I'm not nearby? Or, I love your work, but how will you get my measurements because I am not in Kenya, I'm not in Nairobi? Well, the good news is distance is not a problem. Yes, you can send your measurements even if you're not in Kenya, neither are you in Nairobi. However, we all need to learn how to take accurate body measurements so that once you send me the measurements, they are accurate, they are perfect, and they will give us a perfect fit. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, oh, I don't know how to use a tape measure. Don't worry. In fact, I have a previous video where I am explaining how to use and how to read what? A measuring tape. So this is what I'm going to do. I'll leave a link to that specific video down in the description box. So make sure to click on that link and to watch that video. Now, this video is for everyone. In case you need to send your measurements to your designer or your tailor who is not within your location. I promise that it will be a very straightforward process where I'm going to guide you step by step. Now, if you find this content very helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more fashion tutorials. Without further ado, let's get started. I'll be using these dummies to illustrate, and here is my measuring tape. Kindly check out other tools that you will need for this video in my previous video. Also, I've explained 8 important things that you need to consider while taking measurements in the previous video. I'll also add that link to the description box. Taking body measurements generally means measuring the width, the circumferences, and the length of body parts. Note that body measurements are divided into 2 types. We have the horizontal measurements and the vertical measurements. This is horizontal, meaning across the body, and this is vertical, meaning along the body. Now, let's start with the horizontal measurements. As I mentioned earlier, horizontal means across the body. As you can see, this is across the body. That simply means taking measurements around the specified area. For example, if I say bust measurements horizontally, simply means taking busts around the bust, wrapping your tape measure around the bust. So, horizontal measurements across the body, around the body parts, in short, the circumference of that body part. So, the type of the horizontal body measurements are bust, under bust, waist, hips, and also shoulders. As you can see, across, around, and taking their circumference. Vertical measurements, as we explained, along the body. These are also called the lengths of the body parts. For example, if you are measuring the length of the outfit, then that is a vertical measurement. They are usually taken from the base of the shoulder. So you will always place your measuring tape at the base of the shoulder to that specified body part. So we call them vertical measurements, which are usually measured from the base of the shoulder, and they are the length of the body parts. Such measurements would be bust length, under bust length, waist length, also called the bodice. We have hip length, and we have maybe full length or knee length. Also note that as you measure the length, your tape measure has to go over the bust to that specified body part. No, you may be asking, why should you take the lengths? Why not use the standard measurements? Why should we not do that? Because sometimes you go to a tailor and they only take the circumferences of the body parts, but they do not take the length. Why? We are different, our bodies are different. Some of us, their busts are around here, others here. So it's very good to check the length of the body measurements. Let's start with the shoulder measurements. That's an horizontal measurement. So the best way you take shoulders is from behind. So take your shoulder measurements from behind. Remember, it's across the shoulders. You place your tape measure from one edge of the shoulder to the other edge. How do you know this? From your shoulders, there's a bone here at the edge, almost at the edge of your shoulder, there's a bone here to this other bone. So that's how you identify the point at which that you're supposed to place your tape measure. So for example, from this dummy, do not take your tape measure all the way to this point, but at the edge of the shoulder, here, somewhere here. Make sure that your tape measure is parallel to the floor, or rather the ground. It's straight, it's not sagging, but it's straight and it is across the shoulders. So here are our measurements for this dummy. We have 15. Next, let's take the bust measurements. And since I've explained we have both horizontal and vertical, for every body part, we'll check its horizontal and its vertical measurement. So for the bust, let's start with the horizontal, which I mentioned, the circumference of the bust. So wrap your tape measure around the bust. Make sure your tape measure starts from 0, or rather 1. Wrap it around the fullest part of the bust or the widest part of the bust. Make sure your tape measure is not slanting. It should be parallel to the ground. Then take your measurements for this dummy. Should be 34. Make sure that you don't hold the tape measure too tight or too loose. Make sure that your tape measure can move across the bust area. We just took the horizontal measurement, that was the circumference of the bust. Now let's take the vertical measurement for the bust. Remember, this you take from the base of the neck, that is the base of the neck from the shoulders to where the bust is, to where the fullest part of the bust is. And that's why I have this dummy here that has strings around, that is around the bust, waist, and the hips. Once you have this string, it helps you to mark the fullest part of the bust. So to be very easy for you to take the length, once you place your tape measure on the base of the neck, then you measure to the point of the bust. So our bust length for this dummy is 9. We've taken both measurements, bust circumference and the length for bust. Let's move forward to the next measurement. The next measurement is the waist. The waist. We call it the natural waist. Most of the time we confuse waist. Some think it's here where you put on maybe your trousers, your pants, but we have the natural waist. That is the narrowest part of your waist. How do you identify this? One, you can bend. If you bend like this, the part that enters inside once you bend, that is the natural waist. Also, it is always above the belly button, or rather the navel. In Swahili, we call it kitovu. It is usually above the button, the belly button. That is our natural waist. Having identified your natural waist, you wrap your tape measure around your natural waist. For this dummy, this is the narrowest part of the waist. As I said, usually above the navel. For this dummy, it's 25. That is the circumference of the waist. Let us look at the waist length. Most of the tailors call it the bodice. Now, to measure the waist length, also the bodice, always the length. Let's move to the dummy where we had already marked using a strip. So, as usual, from the base of the neck over the bust to the waist point. As you can see, I had marked earlier to the waist point here. So we have 15.75. So that is our waist length, also the bodice. Now, let's measure the hips. Remember, we'll do the hip circumference and also the hip length. How do you take your measurements for the hip? Make sure that you stand straight, your legs together or your feet together. Then wrap your tape measure around the widest part of the hips. Make sure the tape measure is not slanting, even behind it's not slanting. The widest part of the hips. We take the hip length, that is from the shoulders to the point where the hips are the widest. So again, on the base of the shoulder, on the base of the neck, over the bust to that point. Here we have 25. So the hip length for this specific dummy is at 25. Next, we check the full length of your maybe outfit. It could be at knee length, it could be at the floor. So this is very simple. Once again, you place your measuring tape at the base of the neck, on the shoulder, over the bust, then it goes all the way to where you want your outfit to be at. If it's a knee length, for this dummy it's 40. Then you can go all the way until your desired length of the outfit. That's it, guys, for the measurements. Just a recap. Remember, we are taking lengths or circumferences of the body. We have two types, horizontal and the vertical. Usually for every body part, you'll find yourself taking the horizontal, both the horizontal and the vertical. That's it, guys. Next, we'll learn how to take accurate sleeves measurements. Now, if you have any question, if you have any comments, any video suggestion, or any tutorial that you'd want me to do, kindly let me know in the comment section. See you in the next video. Until then, happy learning. Cheers!